Good morning, everyone. I've been working all weekend just to make sure that you have everything you need and Project Week is as successful as it can be. This video covers student portfolios and expectations of the whole process of Project Week, specifically Monday, and getting everyone started and introducing everything. First, I'd like to thank everyone who did their homework. I worked all day yesterday on going through the different review sheets that you sent me. If you did not send me your homework, it took some time to go through the different things. My strategy was to then check in your Power School to see what lessons you have done. And for some, that was helpful. And then for others, I just had to assume that you have started your curriculum, that you have done the first two units of your curriculum, and that you are actually doing the curriculum that was assigned to you. So if it's not, you'll have to make adjustments in your review sheet that you will be sharing with the teacher observation forms when your designated admin come in for your presentation time next week. Anyways, let's get into it. So, student portfolios. I have made three different versions of portfolios, one for first and second grade, one for third through fifth grade, and one through sixth through eighth grade. They each have 4 documents in them, but the checklist has 5. So we'll go over those. Also, I have printed out everything and put them in its own folder so every student feels special and realizes how important it is. I'm calling this a student portfolio, just to make sure that it has a professional name. And I would recommend writing the student's name up at the top on the tab there. So the first document in the portfolio is the brainstorming proposal. Students will be identifying their project, coming up with a solution, identifying which content areas and standards that are aligned to it that they'll be using for their project. They are not required to use all 4 content areas. They need to use at least 2, though. They'll be deciding on which digital and technology resources that they'll be using because that's our overarching theme for this quarter. They'll be designing and labeling a prototype and answering reflection questions. Remember, students cannot work on their projects until this is signed off by the teacher. And students can work in groups, however, it is a max of 3, no exceptions. Okay, so I would recommend saying, either groups of 2 or if you just happen to have 3, that's fine. But you cannot go past 3. So either 2 groups of 2 or 1 group of 3. And then I would highly recommend just doing your own DOM, just kind of getting used to the whole process, but it's up to you. Okay, here is an example that I created for 7th grade. So the student puts in their name, their homeroom class. They come up with a title for their project. That will probably be the last thing that they write on this proposal. They have to come up with a main idea or problem. How I came up with that is after deciding which lessons I wanted to pull from, I then decided how can I use those lessons in order to create an escape room. I identify which of the content areas I want. I write down the specific lesson and align standards to that lesson from the review sheet, which we will go over in a second. I check and circle all the things that apply. I draw a detailed sketch of my project and label it. I answered the questions in complete sentences, and then I talked to the teacher about the whole process, and they will write a note and sign and date it to ensure by signing and dating, then you can start working on your project. The second document in the student portfolio is their student rubrics. Students will be filling this out on Friday. However, it looks very similar to the proposal. So they'll put the title of their project up at top. They'll include the lessons that they picked from in order to create their project and the aligned standards. And then they will circle the areas on the rubric that they felt that they did well in, or maybe that needs a little bit more support. Okay. In addition to the student rubric, students will also be filling out a self-critique and vocab sheet. So the 3, 2, 1 are 3 different ways that they should be thinking about their project, put their name in, their project title, 3 things that they learned about their project, 2 things they liked about it, and 1 thing that they would change or do differently. Remember, they still need to use complete sentences and correct grammar. Also, um, each grade level will be focusing on different vocabulary from their project. With grades 6 through 8, they're required to come up with 4 words that relate to their project and fill out this fun way of looking at the word. There's multiple different ways of writing it, understanding it, drawing it, and describing it. So the self-critique and the student rubric go hand in hand. The document that I personally think will be most helpful is the presentation script. This is another document that will be completed on Friday. So basically, the student just needs to plug in all the information that they've been working on all week. They can reference their proposal in order to answer all of these questions. But basically, the student will be holding and reading from the script when they are presenting their project next week. Okay. The last thing on the checklist is the advertisement poster. Now, I did not include that in this folder, but as I told you before, I have ordered every class their own giant blank post-it pad, and that should be delivered on Monday. So you'll have those pieces of paper to create an advertisement poster for your product and your project. If it is a group, there only needs to be 1 poster. And if it's individual, then they make 1 for themselves. And that about does it for the student portfolios. Again, I have made every student their own copy. So I made class sets of 25 for every classroom, and they should be in your classrooms on your desk as we speak. So, project week. It is 5 days. As a reminder, your homeroom class will stay in your homeroom for the duration of the week, with the exception of specialist classes and your recess breaks. Also, 4th grade on Thursday, they will still have NDI practice. And in middle school, they will still have their rotational power hour in the morning. There are 2 other documents that are not a part of the student checklist that you will find in your room, and we'll go over those right now. Okay, so the first document is a poster to be put up at the front of the room on the whiteboard or wherever you find it to be best place for the students to look and check and see what's going on. So this is just a poster of how each day should look. Please reference the poster every morning to give expectations of what the students should be working on. Also, at some point on each day, you should be checking in with the students to see where they're at. Because on Monday, they're going to think, oh my gosh, I have all week to make this project. And then by Thursday, if they have not had continual check ins each day, there might not be much to present. So, really kind of your job is to cater and make sure that everything is happening the way that they need to. Students need to learn how to self-regulate, but that is a learning process. And so you, as the teacher, will help manage all of these different things that need to happen each day. So please put the poster up at the front of the board and reference it each morning. The second document that you can pass out to students that I spent all day yesterday making is the quarter one review sheet. This was taken from the homework that you gave to me. I have one for each grade level that customizes each of your lessons from each content area. So the students will be circling the lesson that they want to use for their project. I ask them circle one lesson from each content column that you enjoyed learning about this quarter. And then at the bottom or the next page, depending on how many options you have, I also gave project ideas, okay, based on all the different lessons that were taught in your grade level for first quarter. Now, it's important to note that the students will not be choosing one of these. This is not a choice board for them to pick, and that's the DOM project that they're going to be working on. They will be creating an original idea, but these are something to get them started with thinking about what their project could look like. They could take a concept and then kind of tweak it and change it into their own version. But I really want to see original ideas, and I don't want to see, I will be looking at these, and the admin will be looking at these when they're coming through the room just to make sure that students created an original idea and did not just take one that was given from the choice board option. But especially with this one being our first time around, it's really hard for anyone to kind of think of what would a project look like that combines the different components of the different content areas. So I thought this was really helpful for the teacher and for the student. So anyways, the student will circle the different areas that they want to use for their project. Again, they are not required to use all of the content areas. They need to use at least two though. So they will circle the lessons that they want to use for their project, and then they will write it here in their brainstorming proposal. Okay, so what does Monday actually look like? In middle school, this is what the schedule looks like. They have an hour of power hour, which is a rotational model each day. Then they will have a large block for their first DOM session. Remember, students are staying in their homeroom classes. That might look a little different for middle school, depending on where their power hour class is for that day. But students will return to their homeroom classes at 10 o'clock each day and have two blocks to work on their DOM projects each day. So when you start introducing your project, you are going to go over all of the different things that are in the student portfolio and kind of give the whole process of the week, reminding the students that they need to be able to manage their time appropriately and that you are there to help guide them through the process. And then you want to pass out the quarter review sheets and pull out the brainstorming proposal and say, this is what we're going to be focusing on for the majority of today. You're going to walk the students through the sections, title and purpose, content areas, and standards. the digital product format, resources and materials, and of course, spending some time sketching the design and prototype of the project. As the students continue drafting your proposal, you as the teacher will be walking around, circulating, and making sure that everyone understands the standards and lesson references from the quarter one review sheet. You need to ensure that groups are not larger than 3 students. I think that's probably going to be the biggest hiccup. Students are going to be like, oh, please, just one more. And you're going to be like, nope, it's only 3. So either divide up into 2 different groups of 2 or choose who's going to be in the 3 in your group. Okay. You're going to constantly remind them that they cannot get started on their project until the proposal is signed by the teacher. As a pacing reference, absolutely no one should be done with their proposals in the morning. They really need to take time working on these proposals. All of these documents will be used as part of their grade for their DOM and will be displayed when they are presenting their project. So kind of remind them that we will be looking at this proposal, that it's part of the grading process. It's just as important as all of the other documents. In the second block, students will be finalizing their brainstorming proposals. And then what I would recommend is you could have like a sign up sheet for each person or group to come by and talk about their project, or they can raise their hand when they're ready for you to come by and see and go through all the different steps and really kind of discuss and work out their projects with them. Um, Students are going to need a lot of support. Not only are the younger students, all students, because this is a new process for everybody, and we really want to ensure that everyone is being successful with this whole process. So what you want to do is you want to meet with them one at a time, and you're going to review the completed proposal. You're going to provide teacher comments or suggestions, and then you'll sign and approve if it's ready. Now, cross your fingers. The goal for Monday is for everyone to fully complete their brainstorming proposals and make sure it is completed by the end of the day so they could start working on their projects on Tuesday. Wrapping up the end of the day, there should be final check-ins, collect all the proposals and see which ones have been signed off on and which ones are still pending. You might want to ask students a reflection. They can even write it in a journal if they have one. What's one strength their project idea has? Also, if you want, go ahead and kind of preview what tomorrow might possibly look like for them and how they can go on pacing themselves to make sure that they are finished and ready by Friday. Because there's a lot of documents that need to be done on Friday. So really only Tuesday through Thursday is their work time. So I hope this was informative and helpful for you. Please let me know if you have any further questions about the whole process and how to guide and help your students with this. I really think this is going to be a very exciting new way to have a student-centered DOM process, and students will be able to link their learning to their project, which is one huge component that we had in our charter last year. And so we're really trying to make that come to fruition. My biggest goal is if they can understand the process and understand in their own choices that they make, then the questions that they will answer on other forms of assessments will be a lot easier to understand as well. So I think it's a win-win situation for everyone, and I'm just very excited to see what comes out of this week. Have a wonderful rest of your day.